Hello and welcome to the second race of the course CSS finale here at Matterhorn. We have our second of three 2-hour races to decide the championship tonight, and I'm here tonight with Luke Chillingsworth. How are you doing, Luke?
Alright, how are you doing then, Ethan?
Not bad at all. I'm looking forward to seeing this. As we can see, the cars are lining up on the grid on the pace lap, and the running order will be coming through in just a moment as the cars line themselves up ready. But it will be Memto89 on the pole after Johnny B took the win last night. Pikey Mikey in second place for Made for Racing. In third position will be GTPL Lubeck for Poland 24. Fourth position will be Tavila in the Team Morphine Racing KTM. In fifth position will be Cobra 75 in the Tour Lotus. And in sixth position will be Ramazagon for Resterhol Racing. So, who do you think's got the pace tonight then, Luke?
Well, it's going to be interesting to see who has the pace. However, it's going to be, in my eyes, between Memto89 out front for this race, because of course Johnny took the victory yesterday. They seem to be holding some good form today, the cockpit climax crew. Plus Memto's been a quick figure as well throughout the CSS in places, so perhaps he can go the extra mile tonight and grab a victory in the second race of round 5 of the core CSS.
Indeed, this is a very daunting track here. There's lots of undulation, lots of lots of off camber, lots of rises and falling in the track. It's going to be a difficult track. It's easy to get put a wheel wrong here. It's not very wide. It's very much like the Nürburgring in that phase. We see Memto89 getting a bit of a flick on there. I think he was just warming his tyres, but there was a
bit of hesitation there, wasn't it? Ooh, bit of a scary moment for Memto89 coming around that section. So again, this is one of probably the longest circuit on the core CSS calendar. It's very much mimics the Nürburgring 24-hour circuit in a way, due to the tight nature, due to the length of the circuit. It really gives the drivers an idea about what to expect when the Nürburgring 24 hours takes place in February. Of course, this is the last round now of the course CSS. The cars line up in 2x2 formation as they head round, I believe that's the final corner, as they head up towards the line. Yes, it is. So they're going to line up then 2x2. Memto89 from Pikey Mikey, and it's lights out. We're racing here at Matterhorn, and it's a good start by Memto89. He's managed to put the jump on Pikey Mikey, or has he? As they run down to the first corner, which is a very tight kind of chicane area. But Pikey Mikey has dropped well back from Memto89. He's charged in front of everyone else. And if anything, Pikey Mikey has got the GT Planet Poland 24 racing car behind him. So that's definitely something to keep your eye out for. But as they dive down now then towards turn number 4 and turn number 5, Memto89 has really started this race exactly how he wants to continue, Ethan, right out leading at the front.
Yes, he does get a good start there. It's always easier to get the jump on the man in second position than it is in third, because in a 2x2 formation, the person directly to your side can't see you as easily. So their reaction time is always slower than the person in third. So it's definitely difficult to be able to move up a position when you're in second on the grid. But as we see there, Memto89 definitely putting the pace on early, while as we see, there's a spin there for Cobra.
Cobra's gone off. Now, as he hit the wall there and made some contact, It appeared as if he might have done. So that's a trip, surely, back to the pit lane for Cobra in that Lotus Elise before his race really got going. He's still all over the place. In fact, he's gone again. So the damage that he's sustained there, Ethan, has obviously caused some substantial damage in that Lotus Elise, and perhaps there might be his afternoon over before it's really got going.
Well, it's definitely going to be a long trip back to the pit lane, but he should be able to recover that car back to the pits. It will take him probably a little while. He's lost a lot of time there, and he's going to have to do a pit stop. But as we come over the line, there's been no real change in the order, apart from, of course, Cobra dropping to the back. But it's Memto89, Pikey Mikey, GTPL Lubeck, Tavila, Ramazagon, and Cobra 75. But of course, everyone could make a mistake tonight. No one is safe on this mountain. And it's definitely going to be a test of all the drivers' skills. As we see, Ramazagon has also had to go into the pits early. So that's
perhaps it was contact with Cobra. Perhaps both of them were involved in some way in that shunt. They were running near each other on that first lap. Plus the tight nature as well of that last section of the lap perhaps leads itself to an incident. Like
that middle, the fast downhill sector at the end of sector 2
Yeah.
is very, very fast indeed, and is not somewhere you'd expect to see an overtake. So definitely, if that was an attempt at an overtake, then yeah, that was probably a little bit ill-judged by whoever was trying to do the overtake. As we're on board with Lubeck here. He's been looking good in terms of pace. Is sticking with Pikey Mikey, but isn't really that close. It seems the top three aren't exactly close at the moment. We're hearing that we don't think it was an overtake opportunity from Romy to try and overtake Cobra. We think Cobra might have just lost it all on their own, and maybe that's what caused the damage as Romy drove into Cobra. Well, he made the mistake on his own. As we're on board, we see Mem29, they're flashing up through turn 2, Pikey Mikey through turn 1 up to turn 2. Lubeck, getting a little high on the curve there. That could have fired him into the wall, which we saw him do in practice once. As we come up through turn 4. Now up into turn 5, this is a very tight hairpin. We're down into first gear through here to get maximum turning, then shift up early to get the traction down, back down the hill. At this point you're looking for about a 25-second first section now, down through turn 6. This is the off-camber, left-hander way. If you run in too hot, you will have an accident now, down through turn 8. Here we go. Around a long sweeping turn 8, and ready down towards the jump at 9. It's, kind of an enforced jump because of the way the track works. Down to 10. Heavy braking here. You can lock the outside wheel quite easily on entry. As we go over the hill, it's easy to get the car unstable. As we crest the hill, you've got to, keep the car in control. Down through the second of the right-handers. Back towards into the village section now, down through third gear, into second as we loop it round, and then underneath the railroad, back down to first gear again to get the grunt and the torque, up through second again. Now back round into turn 18, and down we go, up through, a bit of a wiggle there as we come through the long flat out turn 19, back up towards the start-finish line, and that's a lap at Matterhorn Roterboden.
Well, yeah, so a fantastic talk through there of the Matterhorn lap, that 19 corner lap, of course, a very key circuit for the core CSS Championship, and it's run up to an Evo in 24 hours in February to March 2015. Of course, Matterhorn circuit indicating what it's like to race around a tighter circuit such as the Evo Ring, and also with the longer race here, it's 2 hours for all the races here this weekend compared to the normal 90 minutes and then just 2 hours for the last race, to sort of get drivers more kind of adapted to that longer race distance in which they'll have to get used to for stints in an Evo in 24 hours.
Cobra's made another mistake. Did he have contact there with Mem29? And yes, Pikey Mikey's made it through. Cobra managed to control the slide, the mistake, at least to stay on that piece of the wall. But that's just he was trying to be lapped there by Memto, and they came together at a bad moment. So yeah, that could have been damage there for Memto. I don't think it was. I think he got away with that, but that could have been very close to some damage there for our race leader. Just to quickly correct my co-commentator here. All the rounds up until this point were 90 minutes. No round had been 2 hours yet, apart from last night. The Sunday race has always been 90 minutes. So it's fair on all the drivers in the team. As we're now looping back up towards the end of the lap, it seems to be Mem29's pulled a little bit of a gap, but Pikey Mikey's starting to hold him at that point. And then again, the same for Lubeck. As we see Mem29 getting very aggressive with the curbs there. That was definitely an aggressive move from the British driver. We come down back into turn 5. The car's looking pretty stable at the moment, but neither one's setting scintillating pace. The fastest lap we saw yesterday was a 1:29.6. At the moment, the fastest we've seen is a 31. Oh, that was a bit wide there for Mem29. We're looping back down towards the fast.
Well, look at the gap now. Mem29, he's Mem29 and Pikey Mikey now just stretching that gap to Lubeck there in third position in the Poland 24 racing car. And in terms of the championship and how that's standing, Poland 24, they're the team that really want to get the wiggle on here and try and close that 6-point gap to Made for Racing. So perhaps that's an interesting development in this one to see how close they can get to the cars in front even. Yes,
it definitely is that sort of thing. The because of how this race has taken part and how few drivers have been there, the championship is pretty much out of reach now for Concrete Climax and Inferno Racing, who aren't racing here tonight. They had a disconnection yesterday. I do apologise. So Emperor have pretty much got the championship completely sewn up here. It would require something a little drastic for that not to happen, because of course there's only 6 entrants, and to win the championship, Emperor have to come 7th. But yeah, as we see Lubeck get a big slide on through there, and that was a little bit of a scary moment for the. As we see Mike going very wide underneath there. He's dropped back a bit. Maybe he took damage up through that that part of the track, but he's definitely dropped back a bit. Just as we were basically crowning Emperor as the champions of the series, there's been an issue there for Mikey.
They go and make the small mistake, and so even though they are champions of the 2014 course CSS Championship, will they still be able to retain a strong finish here this evening? Because they have got Lubeck behind them, and if they keep making mistakes, just as what we've seen with Cobra so far this early on, then it will cost you. And damage around this lap, because it's such a long lap as well, getting back to the pit lane once you retain damage can lose you a lot of time as well. You can't just have an incident and then jump straight back in the pit lane again, especially if the contact happens very early on in the lap. So that perhaps is something to keep your eye out for. But if we head round now to the very tight section of the lap where it all sort of winds around each other, heading up towards turn number, heading up there and towards the hairpin section. No, this is the last corner. Beg your pardon. Across the start-finish line now, heading up towards turn number 1 and turn number 2. This is a critical corner. Is turn 1 and turn number 2. It's an important corner. It affects the pace for the first sector as well, and you would expect them to carry about 80 miles an hour out of this turn 2 section. You're going to head down now through some of the tighter areas of the lap. This is turn number 5, when you flip the car back downhill towards turn number 6, when the vital elements of the lap again coming up here at turn number 7, which is one which you don't want to run too wide on. But here we go then. We are now riding on board then with the Podium 24 racing car of Lubeck. It's going to be interesting to see how close he can catch up to Pikey Mike in front, or indeed if he'll come under threat from the 2 Portuguese drivers who are currently lying in 4th and 5th position behind them as well.
Well, it seems to be a bit of a gap at the moment from Lubeck to Tavila. Of course, Romy had to pit early on, as we're now back on board with Pikey Mikey running the competition livery for M4R. It was a competition 1 livery that was given, which was submitted by the winner of the competition that M4R ran for a week. The bright orange car is here for this weekend, and this weekend only. From the VLN onwards, they'll be back in their usual ice blue cars. But just to get the fans involved, they decided to hold a little competition. And as he comes back over, he's definitely dropped back a long way from Memento 89, but that's to be expected. Of course, Mike doesn't have to go all out and try and win this. It's not really required. He's just trying to keep the car in a good position. And he is starting to stretch away again from Lubeck. So it shows at the moment it seems to be Mem29 with the pace. Pikey Mikey's kind of between the 2 NSXs and kind of holding station there. And Lubeck has dropped back a little bit away. So he seems to not quite have the pace of the 2 up in front of him. And of course Tavila has definitely got less pace than the 3 in front of him. Of course, we do have a slightly depleted grid at the moment. That's because a couple of teams, of course, didn't have a requirement to be here because they know where they're going to be in the championship, or they've decided to concentrate on testing for the N24, or one or two teams have got drivers in other series tonight. So unfortunately, couldn't get a driver here tonight. And the biggest one of those is probably Reaper Racing, which is going to cost them the chance to take a second position away in the pick from TMR. We expect them to stay ahead of them.
And Ethan, you've also got you've got the series finale next weekend of the World Endurance Championship, which is one of the main events for the core package, and also one of the events which some of the drivers who take part in the CSS also compete in. So perhaps their attentions are also turned this weekend towards winning a championship or doing well in that championship finale rather than a championship here such as the CSS.
Well, yes, the new teams you'd expect to be trying to get here as best as possible. The veteran teams don't have to worry. Of course, it doesn't actually decide anything. The fact that M4 won this championship pretty much is, actually pretty worthless to them. It's just an empty cup in a way. Though they did, work for it. It doesn't have any bearing in terms of the N24 from this. Oh, Mem29 getting very close to the white line there. That could have been disastrous for the CCR driver. That was very close. Of course, those rear tyres starting to possibly burn up a little bit on the back of the NSX slightly. We'll be seeing Chozza 32 in that car tomorrow, which will be his second run back in the CCR Pro Squadron. And here we go again, back underneath the railroad. One of my favourite corners actually on the track. I enjoy the change in lighting, which is quite interesting. But of course, in terms of the rookie teams, the fact that INF aren't here, and the fact that they disconnected, leaves them slightly exposed to being jumped in the championship by one of the other rookie teams. Though they've got a big lead, if they don't score many points, they might drop back. I think it's very unlikely. They'd have to really be unlucky. I think it's about 80% minus. Then they have to be 70% less points or something. So it's very unlikely that they lose their first position in the rookie teams. But it is possible. The other team's trying to capitalise on the bad luck for INF. But definitely difficult to see a way that they'll be overhauled.
Well, in terms of talking about those new teams, Ethan, there are 11 teams competing this year compared to last year's 8 teams. So it just shows how successful last year's last year's event was, and how important it's been this year to bring in the new back in, to bring in more drivers. And it just shows that the core brand and also the N24 will be expanding and has a bright aim for the future as well. Of course, bringing in that sponsorship with Aquila as well for this year's Nervo in 24 hours.
Yes, of course. We're lucky to be powered by Aquila this year, as well as being powered by Core. It will be hopefully a good move for both of us. We'll be looking forward to the partnership with them. And now back on board with Pikey Mikey, who does seem he's closed up again on M289. We're looking at about 40-minute long stints tonight, so 10 minutes longer than we've been seeing for most of the races this year. And he's definitely closed back up, as we see Cobra's back in the pits, unfortunately.
He just kicks up a bit of dust there on the inside, as if he's pushing to try and pull that gap on Pikey Mikey, but it appears he's lost more ground now on so it appears that M29 has dropped back now even further, because that gap's about 4/10 to half a second, it appears now, between M289 in front and then Pikey Mikey behind him. So that's definitely the battle to watch.
Big lock up
there, wasn't it? Big lock up heading through, what was that, 10 number 5, 10 number 6, 10 number 7 even on that one. M289 appears to be all over the place, so to say, but we know he's quite a keen defender. We know he's a keen battler out there as well. So even though Pikey Mikey can close up to overtake Memso, may be one of the hardest things he'll have to do all evening.
Yep, it's not an easy place to overtake. It is doable, and the MX-5 has shown it's very good in a straight line. So if he can get the run on him, possibly up towards turn 1, that would be a really good opportunity that would capitalise on. Oh, as we see some lap traffic there, this could play some really big part in this, because if Memto can get ahead of the lap traffic before turn 1 and Mike can't, then that's going to really cost Mike. So let's see how this goes. Oh, as we see, Romy actually pulls into pit, so my excitement was actually unfounded. He's even closer this lap, so he's now going to be a little bit in the dirty air. So you see, he cuts the curve in turn 1, but not in turn 2. And again, with turn 3 and turn 4, he can. He's closed up massively through turn at that section. He's got a lot better run. This is one of the most critical parts of the lap. And Memento 89, has he made a little mistake there? No, he didn't. He just about got away with it, but that was very close. That could have been a move to the lead as we come back down towards the fast section. It definitely seems Memento 89 is struggling now on the tyres on that NSX after only 12 races.
Yeah, I was going to say, he hasn't gone too long on his tyres. He's probably got, just as he said, if we're thinking around 14-minute stints and we've done about 20 minutes, we're expecting Memento to do at least another 10 laps minimum on these tyres. So the fact that he seems to be struggling now, what are his tyres going to be like in, say, 10 minutes or so time when Pikey Mikey may be able to just breeze past Memento? So it's about, does Pikey Mikey push his tyres now, or perhaps hold back and see how much Memento destroys his tyres?
Well, we're hearing that he might have taken some damage, Memento, because he did suddenly drop back a bit. We didn't see that happen on the stream here, but definitely Mike did close in, and Memento's definitely lost some pace, so it's definitely possible. But of course, the longer he stays on a damaged chassis, the more likely he will actually overwear his tyres, so it compounds a problem, which even if he hasn't got bad tyres now, by the time he pits, he will have bad tyres. Oh, and that's Pikey Mikey getting very close to stacking it in the wall. That was a little bit too aggressive there.
And more for that section of the track. It's one of the key accident places as well on this lap. The most likely place to see an accident will be around that area. So perhaps, Pikey Mikey, the first casualty almost in that wall.
Yes, you could say the run up towards the that hill is the highway to the danger zone, and I do apologise for that terrible joke, but it did have to be made. As we come down back towards what is actually another danger zone on this track. As we see Mike, that's definitely... he got away with that. How did he keep that car in a straight line? I thought that was for sure he was going to be piling into the back of a Memento 89 actually there. I thought that was going to be a big moment as we come through the second of the two right-handers. The drivers can't run out over that white line there, that big thick white curbing onto the concrete. That's not allowed. That's deemed off the track limits as we come back towards underneath the hill, and again over the slow corners Mike is a lot quicker. As we come through the fast stuff, it seems that extra bit of downforce on the NSA. That's a mistake from 9. That's a pass for the lead. Mikey will be saying thank you very much, I'm coming through there.
He just seemed to lose it on the exit, didn't he? He just seemed to rock away, lose it on the exit, and Pikey Mikey, he didn't need a second chance there. He snuffed out the inside, made the move stick, and if we're right in saying that Memento 89 has used the best of his tyres already, then will he perhaps fall into the clutches of Lubeck behind before the first set of pit stops? So perhaps Poland 24 Racing can move up to a second position here this afternoon if Memento cannot preserve his tyres in the Honda NSX.
Definitely possible, yes. I do believe that will be interesting to see, as Memento is now trying to chase back down Pikey Mikey. He's going to be furious with himself. He had the lead, he might have made a mistake at some point. As we come back down towards the danger zone of the track, I'm going to be saying that all night now, unfortunately. Definitely more sliding from the NSX over the MX-5 at the moment. Of course, this is still quite early into the race. We could see either driver making bigger mistakes. But Mento's definitely pushing, but Mike is... that's a big crash.
Memento 89, he just got so much load on that front tyre as they headed through the tight and twisty section around, that was about turn 13, turn 14. Memento 89 very nearly lost the back end of that car there. And again, one of the key sections of this race will be damage avoidance, because if you hit the walls, then you're not going to finish. And especially with the walls being so close to the circuit in this one, just avoiding contact is going to be a key one in terms of winning the race here today. So Memento 89 getting very close to these walls. Some of these drivers really skirting with the barriers, and perhaps that may lead to an early bath here this afternoon at the very tight, very twisty, and definitely unforgiving Matterhorn circuit.
Indeed, it does seem that Memento, again, he's pushing so hard in that car. You'd think he'd want to just, he knows he's got a nice big advantage over M4R from Johnny B last night because M4R tried a one-stop strategy which proved to be not such a good plan. So if I was him, I'd know he had that minute-long, advantage. I, wouldn't be pushing so hard. I'd just be, managing that gap.
Well, yeah, manage the gap, hand it over to your teammate tomorrow, and then just see what he can do with the car, and hopefully bring it home for a victory. Because if you're pushing too hard, then you're only going to make contact, and you're only going to ruin your race, plus your teammates' races as well. So it's one of these, you don't want to push too hard to avoid the contact. However, you don't then want to not push too hard and then start losing time to the cars behind, because I'm sure that Lubeck behind in the Poland 24 racing car will not be hanging around, and if he gets near Mem29, he'll use the advantage there with perhaps the fresher tyres, so to say, and find a way past Memto without waiting too long for Memto to give him too much of a fight.
Yes, like I say, Mento's got a nice big gap in terms of the overall time we're looking at. So though he's behind at the moment, because of how the races are run, you add Mento again making a big mistake in the background. It'd be interesting to see what happened there. I mean, that car's got to be 2-3 wheels damaged now.
Someone had a slight touch again there, didn't he, as he come through that turn number 7 even.
Yes.
So he's definitely, there's obviously something not quite right with that car. Could it just be the tyres have perhaps just gone past their best, or has Memto just got the setup just slightly wrong there, just slightly different to what he should have done?
Well, no, because the car was running fine. Like we say, we didn't see it, but he did drop back suddenly, and we think there's damage on that car at some point. But look, it's all over the place. We think it's front right damage, looking at how the car's behaving. It's either front right damage or rear left, because it is getting very tail happy. One of the two. He's definitely been in the wall at least once, we've seen. So
now this is going to be an interesting one. Now, would you pit if you were Memto, come in and get the problem fixed, but then you might be forced to 3-stop this race, or do you stay out and try and fit this into your strategy slightly, stick with the 2-stop, but then perhaps bring your 2-stop forward by 5 or 6 minutes and see if you can work this down into your strategy without losing too much time? However, by staying out, you're just going to keep losing time to Mikey in front, keep losing time in the overall battle, plus it's going to allow Lubeck behind to get closer and perhaps even challenge him for the second place here this afternoon.
Well, it all depends. It's a relatively short pit lane. It's not the shortest we've got because it's a very slow pit speed of 37 miles an hour, plus you're going uphill, so the cars don't accelerate very quickly out of the box, we've found. So theoretically speaking, he could do a 3-stop. That could be doable. But he would have to basically drive the car perfectly for the next hour and 40 minutes.
Without making one mistake, which, due to the tightness of the circuit and due to how close some of these drivers are running to the track, even within the first 28 minutes when they're all fresh and ready to go, how close will they be getting in, say, 1 hour and 15 minutes time? When the fatigue kicks in, they're getting tired, the tyres have gone, then you can't guarantee not making some slight contact somewhere.
Yep, definitely possible that he'll make some slight contact if he does try and push, because of course he'll have to push for the extra speed, make up that time that he loses. I do apologise, I seem to be going on another yawning fit right now. I need some refreshment.
Right, you'll get me started next.
I know, it's
we'll both be going.
It's a bit of an apology there. As we're now heading up back, still on board with Lubeck, who seems to be just kind of managing that third position. Not really much he can do at this point. He doesn't seem to have the pace to catch Memto, and is too fast for anyone to come up behind. Oh, another big wiggle there for the NSXs. It seems those cars are just very tail happy at the moment.
Well, around they come again. They were on to lap number 19-ish now, because of course that lap counters is slightly out because of the warm-up lap. So we're really on about lap number 18 now of this one. We've done about half an hour, or coming up to around half an hour of this race. We are due a 2-hour race here this afternoon. We are due the first of the pit stops to happen in around 10 minutes time, and we're expecting Memto 89 and Lubeck to perhaps be fighting for second position over that. Because Memto may have some damage, Lubeck doesn't. Can he close up now within the next 6 or 7 minutes and really put himself into a position to challenge for that second place? But of course, Memto's damage, it is allowing Pikey Mikey out front to just pull away slightly to extend that gap out front, and perhaps even close up on the overall results for today's race, and try and bring Made for Racing closer to Concrete Climax Racing in the overall weekend results, Ethan.
Indeed, I'm just going to cut over that point as we see Romy's got damage again. That looks like it's quite close between him and Cobra. I don't know where Cobra is on track. As we see, that's Memto in the pits. Memto's has had to convert to a 3-stop then. So, can he make this work? He's got to be millimetre perfect. And we hear that Cobra's actually just unlapped himself from Romy, so still a bad race for Cobra there. But right, so Memto's pitted. That's back out. He's dropped to 4th, so he's got to negotiate to Vilaha first, and then he's got to try and close back down the 2 in front. But he's got to make that pit stop work. He will have the better pace. So we'll see how he does, but he's got to make sure he doesn't make any more mistakes. And straight away, he's had a spin straight away.
Oh, that's not how Memto 89 would have wanted to have kicked it off. He's just come out of the pit lane. He's made that mistake, and surely now Memto 89's weekend cannot get any worse than this, because now this is a hard one, because if he had just spun it, then perhaps he may not have too much damage. Then he can go and continue. But in my eyes, that looked as if he made some slight contact with the wall on the outside, and perhaps that may lead to him having to make a pit stop again and force himself into a 3-stop, force himself the bonus pit stop time, and perhaps force himself to forfeit the second position in this afternoon's race to Lubeck behind.
I think he got away with no damage there. I think it might have just been a very slight bumper hit. But what he did do, which was possibly a little naughty, is technically speaking, in trying to spin the car back round, he drove the car the other way around the circuit. If you actually watch that, he was driving the wrong way around the track for a moment. He might get himself a bit of a slap on the wrist for that in the steward's review. So he has to be careful there. That was a little bit against the spirit of the rules there. But it was a clear track, so he will probably get away with it with nothing than a little slap on the wrist and a little tut-tut. But he shouldn't incur a penalty. He may get a warning. As we see again, that car seems just so unstable at the moment. We're hearing actually he might have just hit the wall again. Again.
Oh, so Memto 89, this is not how he would have wanted, and especially his Concrete Climax Racing teammates. Surely this damage that he may have put on now, because if he has hit the wall, then he may have damage. Plus, because he keeps hitting the wall, perhaps he'll do it again and do it more often. Will this perhaps open up? Now, Pikey Mikey is sitting there thinking, right, let's plug away the laps and let's try and pull some of this deficit back to really leave a race going for tomorrow evening.
Exactly, so Pikey Mikey does seem to have a big lead now. He's back at the start line. I'm not exactly sure where Memto 89 is at this point on the track. But he's still on that first set of tyres, but they are definitely starting to wear out. He's starting to have issues. We're hearing that Memto's in turn 12 at the moment, while Mike is at turn 5. So that's a fair, it's half a lap difference now.
It's half a lap. It's 1.5 minutes per lap. So he's got about, let's work it out, about a 30 to 40 second, if not more, lead on Memto. Meaning the gap for tomorrow's race will be around 20-ish seconds. 20-ish seconds heading into that race tomorrow, which is a doable gap in a 2-hour race. So, Memto's mistakes has perhaps opened up, made for Racing a small window of hope here, to try and pull back some of that margin and try and pull an overall victory here this weekend as well, to add to their fantastic run during the season's core CSS.
Exactly, Memto's back in the pits then. That's definitely ruined his
damage.
Yeah, it's definitely ruined his evening. That's going to be him back almost a lap down.
Well, that's going to add more to the overall lap time as well. So instead of it being a 40-second gap, perhaps it's now perhaps perhaps that has now reached that minute mark, and perhaps now Made for Racing do lead overall. But we'll have to confirm that in time when we get that news to come through. There is Pikey Mikey now still leading the way. He's coming up to lap. It appears is that Cobra in front, or is he already lapped Cobra? But we'll keep an eye out on who that is just in front in a minute when our screen shows him. There we go. There is Pikey Mikey in the orange-coloured Mazda, is that with the blue highlights on the wheels. A fantastic design there for the Made for Racing team as they flick it now under that small tunnel section, back down the hill through the flick at turn number 6, and then they'll flip the car into the very quick left-hander now at turn number 7, one of the key overtaking positions on the lap. This section here.
Oh, Romy's made a mistake there.
Oh, is that a car going off in front? We just saw it for a split second. I'm not quite sure who that was on our screen.
Romy in the team rest. Nissan Silvia, as we're back on board, still on board here with Pikey Mikey, now back on the outboard shop. So he's now got around 50 seconds, maybe a minute to Memto. What he now needs to do is try and not make any mistakes, hold that gap, and that will be pulling back in a minute of the advantage that Johnny B got yesterday.
The worst thing that Pikey Mikey could do now, however, is try and push more, try and be the hero, and try and pull out a margin for tomorrow's race, make a mistake, hit the wall, make contact, and then lose all the advantage he's got. So it's hard once to sort of play it by ear, because even though Memto's made the mistakes, he's made them sort of fairly late on in the lap, whereas if Pikey Mikey does the same mistake, but let's say he makes it right here at turn number 1 or turn number 2, which we have already said will be incident zone, so to say, during today's race, then Pikey Mikey will have a whole lap to go round before he can reach the pit lane again, which will then allow Memto to perhaps tick off 20-30 seconds during the lap, plus and then another 20 in the pit stop phase, which then could potentially lead to Memto 89 taking advantage and perhaps even taking a lead overall as well in the Concrete Climax Racing team as well, because he'll be able to extend the lead on the gap yesterday as well, and that will put Made for Racing basically out the running for the weekend's race. So definitely something to keep your eye out for. Let's hope, however, that no drivers make some more mistakes, and we can have a clean run to the line where only the driver's skill will be the factor deciding the outcome of today's race and, of course, this weekend's overall battle.
Yep, it would be interesting. I mean, of course. So Mike needs to keep it on the road. Lubeck needs to keep it on the. Actually, if Lubeck can gain back a lap, then he'll be in the running for second position overall. They're a lap back after Old Boys' mishaps yesterday, and they could pull themselves back into contention if Memto keeps making mistakes. However, Memto is now probably lapping at a fairly decent pace. He's going to have the freshest tyres, lower fuel. So his car should be fairly good at the moment. While he should close that gap down a little bit at this point. But of course, he has to pit twice more, we're thinking, or maybe just once more. We'll see how his tyres hold up. But on the screen, it's saying he's a lap down. I don't actually believe that he is, but he has just spun the car, so he's still pushing probably too hard in that car, which is very easy to do around this track. Having an incident here is very easy to do. I know that from experience. I infamously dropped it on the pace lap and got damaged myself once, which was a little bit embarrassing. I did a little bit of an Adrian Newey there. So it's very easy to do even in these cars to just lose your concentration for a moment, because this track is so undulating and off camber. The car is really, really on edge. I mean, it's bumping all the suspension is under load all the way around. Even on the straights, there's bumps in the road, and the car just feels really, really uncomfortable all the way around. It's a real technical challenge. It is an enjoyable lap, don't get me wrong. You do enjoy driving one lap around here, but it is a definite challenge to do a 2-hour race without making any mistakes.
Well, definitely, it's one as well, which as the evening goes on, when you start to get tired, when the tyres are starting to go off, more mistakes will follow because of the tightness of the track, because of the bumps. It perhaps makes it easier to lock up, perhaps it makes it easier to run wide, and that could cause some issues later on. We're seeing that Ramasagan in the pit lane, if that's how you pronounce it, that is, in the pit lane. Yes, it is. The Portuguese driver there in 5th position. They've got quite a few different nations taking place this weekend. We've got a Mikey and Memto representing the British side of things here today. We've got Lubeck from Poland. We've got the 2 Portuguese drivers there as well, and then we've got Cobra there, the Swedish driver as well. So it's good to see an intercontinental style feel to the court CSS this evening. A lot of different countries being represented here in the Swiss Alps, so to say, of Matterhorn this afternoon. Very tight circuit, very twisty circuit, very bumpy circuit, as we've just said, and one which is really testing the drivers' abilities to both drive, to both think about the strategies as well and more. So we are now in what's known as the pit lane window, so to say. Now we have hit the 14-minute mark, so those who are two stopping will perhaps start to make their moves soon. And in fact, Pikey Mikey has dived into the pit lane now for his first scheduled stop of the afternoon, so it will be interesting to see where he comes out. Remember that Lubeck was behind Memto in the last before Memto made his pit stop, or pit stops even. So if Lubeck comes around this time and overtakes Pikey Mikey, we know where that Memto will be quite a way behind Pikey Mikey. It appears, however, that Lubeck has also jumped into the pit lane, so mirroring Pikey Mikey's pit stop there. So Lubeck not going to have a chance to take the lead here, and will instead just follow Pikey Mikey through into the pit lane. This will give Tavelar, the Portuguese driver in the KTM Crossbow, a chance to have a short stint in 2nd position, try and chase after Pikey Mikey in front, but he is of course out of place and yet to make his pit stop, so he's not one to judge at the moment what's going on. So it's going to be interesting to see where he ends up. He was battling with Ronan's Gran a bit earlier on. However, he is in the pit lane at the moment. He has just pitted, so perhaps there is some damage there for the other Portuguese driver. We're hearing that perhaps Talia might decide to do a one-stop in this one, might try and stretch the tyres to the hour mark and then see if he can try that one-stop, or if not, go further and try the one-stop. So definitely an interesting strategy. However, that could then bounce back and go the wrong way, Ethan, because if you do try a one-stop and then your tyres go off earlier and they hit the cliff, then you may lose more ground than just basic two-stopping and following the herd, so to say.
Well, here, it's not really so much the tyres will go off the cliff, it's that you'll just progressively lose more time. And because the pit lane isn't an excessively long pit lane, doing a one-stop isn't as beneficial as first thought. Of course, we saw GTP Kane last night for Made for Racing trying the one-stop, and it didn't work out for him. Whilst at Eiger, the one-stop won. The one-stop strategy won 2 races. It didn't win the 3rd. As we see, Tavila goes into the lead for the first time. I think all season we've had the Team Morphine Racing drivers.
Hang on, why is Mikey back in the pit lane, Ethan?
Yeah, that's a better point, isn't it? He must have had damage. So
this is going to open it up now back to Memto, because he's had to do that bonus pit stop as well. So where's Memto? Lubeck effectively will take the lead of this race then, Ethan.
He will do indeed. So what happened there? As we see, Memto's not far behind now.
He's coming out of turn 19. He's going down the straight now. Now Mikey's out the pit lane now. Memto's coming through shot now. That's the gap. It must be about 1.5 to 2 seconds. That's not a large gap.
As we see,
so Memto could perhaps try and fight that one. However, Memto's car, we know, is a bit unstable and perhaps may not be able to mount an effective push on Mikey in front. But we'll have to wait and see what kind of magic Memto can pull out that Honda.
Yes, indeed. It would be interesting. Just getting so that's not a big gap now at all. That's going to be, that's catchable by the CCR driver, which of course puts them really back in the hunt for the overall victory again. Memto's going to be, counting his lucky stars, and of course Lubeck is now in prime position to take the room victory because he's on the right strategy. He's not that much further ahead than those two behind him. He's about 10-15 seconds, I believe. But Tavila is about 10 seconds ahead of Lubeck. So it's going to require some pushing of the older gas pedal for the others to catch back up to Lubeck. But and of course Tavila is trying the one stop, so it's 12 seconds back to Lubeck, from Lubeck back to Pikey Mikey. That's what we're looking for in terms of the lead. I mean, Lubeck must be counting his lucky stars. He's suddenly just gained.
Well, it just shows as well, doesn't it, Ethan? It just shows how quickly a race can turn on its head and switch around, because 1 minute we're seeing Memto in dominant form, next we're seeing Pikey Mikey dominating and looking on course to take not only the race lead but the overall lead from Age Rising, and now we're seeing Lubeck coming from nowhere due to mistakes and perhaps could stand a chance to win the race this afternoon. However, Lubeck has yet to make a mistake, whereas those around him have. So if the race this afternoon follows sort of tradition this afternoon, then Lubeck is due to make one mistake, which will then bring Mikey back into it. So don't count it all over yet. We still got 1 hour and 15 minutes to go in this one. Lubeck is yet to make a mistake, and due to the tight nature of this track, plus the fact that most drivers have made one mistake, perhaps Lubeck is next to fall foul to the Matterhorn's tight, twisty and bumpy sections.
Well, we think we've got a hunch here that we think Lubeck might not actually have the pace to be able to outrun Tavila. So we could see Tavila actually take the room victory if he can make that one stop work. But it's all going to depend on how much pace the two drivers have at the moment. And will Tavila have full foul of the same thing that's happened to every person who's led this race so far, which is coming off? The gap hasn't really changed between Lubeck and Tavila. It's changed by about 2 or 3 seconds over the last 2 or 3 laps, so it's not closing very quickly. It's still 11 seconds back to Pikey, 10.5 back to Pikey Mikey, so he's closed that down by about half a second. And Mikey's just set the fastest lap of the race at a 30.5. Looking at it, it's still close between those top 4 cars. Of course, Memto's only 2 seconds behind, so it's going to be a close run thing here. I was counting Tavila out, but he might have a shot here. But the gap's just dropped down to 9.8, so I think now there's
last
ties.
lap wasn't great for Tavila. If you look, he dropped about
he just dropped
3 seconds.
2 or 3 seconds.
That's not great for Tavila. Pikey Mikey, however, due to his mistakes, he's not out of it yet. He's just done a 1:30.5, fastest lap of the race, and gone 3-4 tenths faster than 3 to 4 tenths faster than anyone in the third sector. So perhaps Pikey Mikey is not completely out the game here, even though he had those mistakes. But Tavila, that gap is coming down now, Ethan. Look at that one. You see Lubeck's done a personal best, 1 minute 31.9. He's brought the gap down to 8.4 seconds. So it seems now as if Tavila will not have the pace to stay in the race lead. And perhaps it's more about when will Lubeck close rather than if Lubeck closes.
Yep, it's definitely possible. I would just like to point out, Pikey Mikey just did a lap which was 0.02 of a second slower than his previous fastest lap. So he's just done 2 almost back-to-back fastest laps in terms of his personal pace, and that's incredibly good pace from the British driver. It's very consistent. He's now stretching that gap out to Memto 89, which I think shows that maybe Mikey was holding a little bit back at the start of the race, but now he knows he's on a compromised strategy. He's having to kind of throw it all out there, go for hell for leather, and hope that Memto 89 falls off to try and close down the overall time gap.
And also hope he doesn't fall foul again to the walls and have more contact and have to pay again. So even though you can push, then it could be sort of an onward circle, and the fact that You push, you make contact, you have to pit again.
Yes, definitely.
Still got 1 hour and 10 minutes to go then in the court CSS. Second race, 5th round of the championship. In fact, the final round of the championship in this special weekend. 2-hour races this weekend compared to the normal 90-minute length. So definitely worth sticking around for. We're barely even halfway through this race yet. In fact, we're not even halfway through this race yet. So we've still got quite a long way to go. And this race has turned on its head so many times. Memento 89 looked to have the advantage early on for Concrete Climax Racing. However, his mistakes led to Pikey Mikey looking good for this afternoon's race, and also to take the overall lead for Made for Racing. It then twisted on its head again with Pikey Mikey having a spin, and then through to the lead came Lubeck for Poland 24 Racing. However, then it looked as if Tavila might have the pace in the KTM Crossbow. He meant as Lubeck is closing at a very quick pace indeed. But now Pikey Mikey's far compared to the rest of the field. Can Pikey Mikey perhaps jump the drivers and bag an afternoon victory here today? But he may not get time back in terms of the overall standings are concerned. Of course, you can get in touch with us here in the commentary box this evening. The hashtag on Twitter to get in touch with us right here in the commentary box for any shout outs you want, questions, dedications or more. The hashtag is hashtag CoreCSS. That is hashtag CoreCSS, and we'll make sure that we read out all tweets, all questions, all shout outs and more during this evening's show. So make sure that you get those in before 9:45 this evening for your shout out to be read out. That is hashtag CoreCSS.
Indeed, of course, we've got a lot coming up on the core program in the next few weeks and months. We've got, of course, the VLN will be taking centre stage in about a month's time. The second part of the Nürburgring 24 hours will be the qualifying as such for the Nürburgring 24 hours. It's the build-up series. It gets all the drivers to learn and train how to drive on the Nürburgring for longer stints. It also does the same thing as the CSS of kind of building teamwork between the drivers, and of course the winners of that championship get to start on the pole for the N24, which might not be particularly important in terms of the N24, but it's still a nice psychological advantage to have if you know you've got good pace and consistency throughout the VLN. Of course, will be in the N24 spec cars. The SP9 and the SP7 cars will be being picked over the next few weeks. We've had most of the veteran teams have now finished picking their cars, so it will be over to the rookie teams, and soon we'll be being ready for the to see all these cars unveiled. Of course, we'll be having our core spotters guide for the N24 being published soon as well. It will be downloadable, and there will also be hard copies available. And of course, other series which will be happening soon as we're on board with Lubeck now, who's right behind Tavila actually, as I have to interrupt my little point there about the spotters guide. This is kind of, this is for the race lead. This is, can Tavila hold up Lubeck? Because if he can hold up Lubeck, that gives him a really good chance of making his one-stop work, because he's going to curtail how fast Lubeck can pull away from him and kind of neutralise how good the tyres.
Plus, if Tavila can hold up Lubeck, it allows Pikey Mikey, who's setting faster lap times, to close up on Lubeck as well. But it appears Lubeck around the outside is going to make the police stick, not quite. Tavila will have the inside again for the next section of the lap. However, bit of squeezing action going on there then between the two leaders out front. And of course, Tavila now has to make sure he doesn't make contact with Lubeck, because if he puts Lubeck in the wall, even if it's accidental, Tavila may have the stewards to answer for later on this evening.
Indeed, this should come to Lubeck at some point in the next few laps, because the KTM isn't particularly strong in a straight line. I think we should see an overtake down one of the straights. He's pulling out now. This is the problem with the KTM. It's not very good in a straight line. Lubeck has taken the lead, and that is,
Lubeck's
unfortunately, kind of done and dusted. That was not going to be much of a fight for that, and Tavila, I think, knew that. Didn't really put his car in a position to defend as so much. He kind of stayed on the racing line and just let Lubeck overtake on the inside. As you see, Mikey is not far behind these two now. He's really closed up on those fresh tyres. I don't know how far behind Mem29 is, but Mikey has been pushing like crazy to have closed down that gap so quickly. And we'll be seeing if the British driver can get through as well. Of course, this puts Mikey right back in the running of a good position because he would have made up all that time he lost. So here he comes down the hill. This is one of the hardest sections to brake for. You've got a massive load on the front tyres. And as we come back over the hill, this corner actually causes a lot of issues for some of the cars, causing them to actually slightly endo into it. If you get the braking wrong, the back end can lift up and the car becomes super unstable at the rear because it's not even touching the ground anymore. But let's see where Mikey can get through onto Villa. He's going to have to work
Mikey, he's managed to close that gap in superbly, because if you look at it, Lubeck's not too far in front now of Tavila. So if Mikey can hurry up and get past Tavila without Lubeck escaping too much, then Mikey may be able to grab back the afternoon race victory and try and even start pulling away or plugging away that gap for the overall leader as well. So Mikey now, he heads to the left-hand side as they dive into turn number 1 and flip the car into turn number 2 and head up to the incident zone, so to say, the danger zone at turn number 3. But they get to that area pretty safely indeed. Dive down the hill now, heading up towards the flick at turn number 4, the tight sort of mini hairpin, so to say, under the little bridge at turn number 5. You then head down a short kind of back straight, if you like, down here through turn number 6, through turn number 7, and then up towards turn number 8. But it appears that Mikey cannot yet find a way past Tavila. However, I'm sure when they get onto the straight and around the tiny bits, then that's where Mikey can put the lap time in. There is Memto89, the race leader, a tad earlier on. He's currently lying in 4th position, and his incidents earlier on have really ruined the Concrete Climax Racing driver.
Oh, that could be a big crash. That could be a big crash. He seems to have managed to hold that. That was incredible car control because he got a big slide on early on in the turn 9 corner. But again, seems like he got away with that. We're hearing reports that he might already have damage, as we're now back on board with Mikey, who's right behind the KTM. And weirdly, he seems to be having more trouble getting past the KTM than Lubeck did in the NSX. But he might be on for it this time. He's got better straight line speed than the KTM. Here he comes. He's coming around the outside now. He'll get the momentum of going around the outside, and he's through into 2nd position as they come up towards turn 1. Now, can he chase down Lubeck, who's on slightly better tyres than Tavila has, but not as good tyres as Mike? And that's a great move there for Pikey Mikey into the 2nd position.
Well, definitely a interesting battle that will be about to develop here for the lead in this one. It's between Lubeck and Pikey Mikey, as we're seeing Memto89 back in the pit lane again. There was a rumour down there from our pit lane reporter that perhaps Memto did have contact before we saw him spin. So Memto's day definitely going from bad to worse, and it seems that if Memto has any luck at all, then it is always bad luck. He either disconnects from races or is making contact with walls. It seems that Memto hasn't had just one fully clean race for quite a long time during the CSS championship so far, even.
Indeed so. He's definitely been an unlucky driver this season. He's disconnected twice in other races. He disconnected at Deep Forest, he disconnected at Apricot Hill, both of those times in strong positions, and now he's up behind Cobra, I believe, again, who's had a pretty bad race, if I'm honest, up to 5th now with Romy's mistakes, but early on didn't seem to have much flow going on in the Tour Lease, but I'm sure as the races progress, the car has been getting better and better, and the consistency is starting to come. This is one of the worst places Memto could be coming up to a bit of lap traffic, and again he tries to go for it. Could that have been damage? I think Memto89 might have had a crash there. I'm not 100%. As we see Tavila also coming into the pits. I'm not quite sure.
We're hearing he might have done. In fact, where is now Cobra compared to that shot? Because he was right up close to Memto. So either Memto's hit off Cobra, somewhere, or Memto has crashed out and Cobra's so far in front. So we'll have to wait and see. We saw them quite close together, so it appears that something's obviously happened there. There's the lapped car of Cobra in front, so Memto, yeah, trying to lap Cobra, but them getting very close indeed. So Memto has either backed off there, just allow Cobra to have it for this time, and then he'll come back again. But surely Cobra should be getting out the way here. Surely he's being blue flagged here to let Memto go through. Cobra goes into the pit lane now, so he won't cause Memto more trouble than that. Memto free to continue there in 4th position, but surely Memto's day, Ethan, cannot get worse than it has already. He's had rotten luck so far, and his day seemingly almost getting worse there, with the contact almost there with the lapped car of Cobra 75.
Indeed, the lap car there of Cobra not seemed to be going well. He's dropped back down to the 6th position, so Cobra's race has been pretty terrible as well as Memto's. We'll have to see if there was damage caused in Memto's car. Davila has pitted actually and stayed out ahead of Memto, so Memto's a long way back actually, thinking about that. So obviously I think Memto has got damage again and is in real danger there, as Mikey is now closing back up towards Lubeck. Lubeck having a fairly good race actually, kept out of the walls, not taking any damage, but just hasn't had the best of pace. And now look, right back with Cobra again, who's lifted out this time. Will Mike be able to get through as well? Yes, Mike has got through on the inside through turn 8, so that won't affect the cars through turn 9, turn 10. Mike again having to, close down the NSX in the lead. He always seems to be chasing an NSX at the moment. There's always one seen in the ahead of the MX-5.
Well, it appears, Ethan, that Mikey is closing up on Lubeck here, because he wasn't that close 3 or 4 laps ago. So this really is now the race for the lead in this one. However, coming up to the next round of pit stops in about 15 minutes or so time, will Pikey Mikey decide to try and grab the undercut at the next round of pit stops, or will he just be going for flat out now on the track and try and make the move stick before the pit stops occur?
Indeed. I think he'll try and get the move done. If he can get it done early, he'll get it done, on the track instead of having to pit, because you never know if pitting is a good gamble to make. I mean, the Mazda has been a very good car on its tyres, so he could potentially go to the undercut, but of course he's already had to pit once off strategy. He'll probably want to stick back with a strategy he's comfortable with. And if the Mazda's better on its tyres anyway, Lubeck might wrap it round a wall
Well, in fact, sorry to interrupt you there, Ethan, just saying, look how close Mikey has now closed on that lap, so it shows he won't even need to get nearly undercut all the pit stops to make that move stick, because it appears that Pikey Mikey could get that move stuck within the next 2 or 3 laps if he fails to make a mistake. And just in front of him, talking about mistakes, that's a big moment there for Lubeck. He's put it in the wall, it appears, Ethan, and Pikey Mikey goes through into 2nd position. Into the lead, Ethan. Lubeck's gone.
That's exactly where I thought there'd be an accident, which could be game changing, and look at that, right where we thought it might be, a big
It was
crash.
all over the shop.
Yeah,
it's all over the place. He must have pinged off 2 or 3 walls there. Perhaps that brings back into play to Vila or Memto if that is critical damage there for the Poland 24 car. I'm guessing it would be with contact like that. So perhaps now Memto 89 and Tavila back in to play here, because Lubeck, it appears, has some damage. We're seeing Memto 89 is moved up into 3rd position, so he's managed to get past Tavila there in the KTM crossbow. So that's Memto back up to 3rd position. Perhaps he might be able to jump up to 2nd now with the damage in front. We're hearing Tavila may have some damage, perhaps contact with Memto 89. So that's definitely something to keep your eye on there, Ethan, as it all gets a bit spicy out there.
Yeah, it was all calming down, but it looks like Tavila might have had more damage than we think, because he might have engine damage, which of course would be absolutely gutting for his race. He's been driving really well all race, and to get engine damage of all the damage around here with the hill, that's really going to make life difficult for the KTM. He's going to lose masses of time, because Memto has just streaked away. So yeah, that was definitely a problem there. And yeah, it will be interesting to see how long it takes Tavila to get into the pits. So back with an hour and 55 minutes to go, sorry, until the end of this race. So after an hour, it's Pikey Mikey in the lead, followed by Lubeck, Mem29, Tavila, who's had to go to the pits. Then Romy in 5th and Cobra in 6th position. Those two are on the same lap and could still have a battle at the end. As we see Pikey Mikey in 1st with Lubeck in 2nd position. Lubeck making a big crash not far long ago. And Pikey Mikey is now all out on his own again after making a mistake about 25 minutes ago. As you see, almost an instant there with Tavila as Tavila came out of the pits. Did Pikey Mikey make it through there okay? I think he did. But that could have been a nightmare situation after just doing all the work to get back into the lead, to come into a contact with a car. He did have to lose some pace, but of course that's far better than hitting a wall. To lose only 2 or 3 seconds from a car rejoining from the pit lane is better than 10 seconds of damage and 30 seconds of having to get back through the pit lane. So a wise move there by the M4R driver to just back it out of the throttle and sort things out a little slower than you normally would. As we come down back towards the turn 10 hairpin, this is where we knew there'd be some danger, and of course that's where GTPL Lubeck made his big incident for the in the race. Oh, a big slide there for Pikey Mikey as he came through the corner with the big crest in it. As we come now through in towards the village section, as we come through now into turn 17 underneath the railroad, as we're now back on board GTPL Lubeck, who just lapped Cobra again. So the gap seems to be around 15 seconds between Lubeck and Pikey Mikey. We haven't seen Lubeck pit, I don't believe. So he might have got away with no damage, but that would be remarkable after the size of the crash he had. And Lubeck is now going quicker this lap because, of course, Mikey had to slow down for the KTM of Tavila, who just came out of the pits. So, of course, as we were saying earlier, before it all started picking up in the action, we of course have got the Super GT series starting on Core soon, being hosted by Duke Adam, we believe, who also runs the Super Trofeo Maserati series. So this is his second series. This is going to be one of the support series for the N24, as we see Mike right behind Romy now in the rest. Nissan Silvia. Hopefully he'll get out of the way without too much incident happening. This track's not easy to lap on. Luckily all the cars are in similar sort of pace, so at least there's no big speed differential. There you go, he should be through soon. But this is costing him lap time, and he may get frustrated up behind the orange car. Yeah, it's definitely been it's costing him lap time. Of course, Tavila is now a lap down, so that's not something he has to worry about. He's now coming up the hill. Hopefully he'll come through now. Yes, it does seem that Pikey Mikey's come through on the outside. And Luke, how are you thinking this race is going to unfold in the last 50 minutes?
Well, it's going to be an interesting kind of ending to this race. We've seen Pikey Mikey now. He is out front. Can he pull this gap in terms of the overall and try and bring Mace Racing back into the game? We've seen some mistakes with Lubeck. Could this perhaps mean Memento can jump back up into second and try and put some pressure on Pikey Mikey? We've seen some of these drivers make at least one, or if not two, mistakes today. Pikey Mikey having only made the one real mistake. Could he make one more mistake? We've seen now all the leaders of this race, bar perhaps Tavila, make at least one crucial mistake in this race. So Pikey Mikey back out there in the lead. Would it be his chance to make a second mistake this afternoon, which may perhaps open a door again to the concrete climax racing driver of Memento 89, who's currently in third position? Because Lubeck does have damage. Will he be able to nurse that Podium 24 racing car enough to hold on to that second position for another, 10-15 minutes before the round of pit stops take place. So this could definitely be a good fight to develop in out there. It's only time will tell to see who's going to be able to hold on long enough to clinch victory this afternoon, and indeed victory in the overall standings come tomorrow afternoon.
Yes, we are actually believing Lubeck might have actually got away with that massive crash with no damage, which would be the luckiest escape of anybody I've ever seen at this track. I've seen people get damage from the lightest of taps at these barriers, so if he's managed to get away with no damage, that would be remarkable.
Well, it would definitely be a very interesting argument there, how Lubeck can have that crash without having damage, and then people like Pikey Mikey and Memto having damage from petty incidents. So it just shows how lucky some of them could get. Perhaps it's Lubeck's day. Again, time will tell. See if Lubeck can close back up on Pikey Mikey in front. So that's definitely something to keep your eye on in that one. Here are now the two Portuguese drivers there battling away with each other. Oh no, that is apologies. That is that Mikey behind just coming up to lap Tavila there in the KTM Crossbow.
Tavila would have just gone past Romy.
Okay, yeah.
Because
so
Romy is actually a lap down on Tavila and 3 laps down on Pikey Mikey now. So yes, they're all out of position when it comes to blue flags. They're all in, as such, the correct order. Now,
Tavila's had quite a strong race so far this afternoon. He had that chance to lead early on, and knowing that Tavila was never going to be a front runner here this afternoon, the fact that he's been able to mix it with the big boys for a short period will just help him kind of advance himself for his career, kind of just advance his driving skills, and then also just good to see him there battling out with the front drivers out front and really add in some more talent to that front field, and really good to see some of the younger guys mixing it in with the more experienced core drivers in front.
Well, Tavila, how we know, has had a lot of experience in other leagues. Just this is the first time they've come to the core league, the core events to do the N24, and it's definitely been an interesting learning curve, I think, for them. It's a very stiff competition around here, and they might have just picked a car that they didn't actually get on with very well by the end, and hopefully they'll have better luck with their car choice for the N24. Of course, a lot longer time to choose your car in this. The teams have had a couple of months now to test all the cars, whilst some of them are now gone. The Mercedes SLS and SP9 being the only car which is entirely taken up, and we expect at least another one car to be completely filled by the time we get to the new teams in the SP9 class. It is perfectly possible that they could get a car that they want. There's still one Audi R8, one BMW Z4, one Corvette, and 2 Nissan GTRs left in SP9, and all the SP7 cars are still open to choosing.
Well, definitely kind of interesting to see who will pick what car, and of course we'll bring you updated on the core page when we get that information as well, so make sure you keep your eyes peeled on that one. We're coming up then to 47 minutes or so to go in this one. Pikey Mikey leading the way for Made for Racing, second position for Lubeck for Polo 24 Racing, third place for Memento 89 for the Concrete Climax Racing team. They are your top three in this one here this afternoon at the Matterhorn circuit. Of course, you've only got half an hour left to get your tweets in. It's hashtag core CSS. They need to be in for 9:45 if you want any shout out or dedications or questions to any of our commentary team, and we will try our best to answer those, but you have to get those in for 9:45 as well. If you've got any nominations for driver of the day, which we will announce at about 5 to 10, then make sure you get those in as well to hashtag core CSS. There is Memto again getting a bit wide heading through the first few corners on that one. A very quick section there around turns 2 and turns 3. There is Memto now going through turn number 5. Will come down that short back straight, but Mem29, his car hasn't looked great the whole day. It seemed a bit unstable all throughout the race here today, and perhaps Memto has just not got that car fired up. Obviously, something's happened, some damage somewhere, or something keeps happening to that car. Perhaps the setup's not right, perhaps the tyres are degrading too much, but whatever happens, Memto's car seems to be a bit unstable all throughout the day, and it's just allowed drivers like Pikey Mikey and also Lubeck to jump the concrete climax racing driver there, and for Pikey Mikey a chance to nib away slightly at that gap that the concrete climax racing team has for the overall weekend results, which will be finalised tomorrow evening in the third and final race of the day, which takes place again at 8 p.m, 2-hour race again. Of course, the race will be live streamed, and I'm back under the commentary box for that one as well, so that's just another reason to not miss tomorrow's action, Ethan.
A little bit of self-publicising there from my junior commentator here, and we'll be looking forward to hearing Luke's voice again tomorrow for the third part of this finale of the core CSS. It's been a good championship, though, I feel. How do you feel?
It's been a very strong series, isn't it? There's been a lot of side-by-side action. It's been very... in terms of how the pit stop strategies have been working, it's always played fun action in terms of how the pit stops, whenever so what I find is whenever there is a pit stop, suddenly the action is just boiling over in that section. So that's definitely, in my eyes, being one of the staple features of this championship, is being able to bring in the pit stops and create some exciting action with it as well.
Yes, definitely. So it's definitely been the championship where strategy has been a big word. Of course, some of the veteran teams trying some new things out. The rookie teams trying to find things out for the first time, maybe. And we've seen some interesting calls made by drivers. I think in the last few races, M4R, knowing that they've had a kind of a grasp on the championship title already, have been trying out some new things, trying to see how they would work in the environment of the N24. But it's definitely it's definitely a good series for all the teams to try and work out how. Oh, Mikey, they're getting a little wide out of the turn 14 as we come down through turn 15 into 16. Through 16 now and up towards 17, which is underneath the bridge. Yeah, it's definitely been a good series. Of course, it feels like quite a while ago that we started this off, of course, on the 14th of September, and it's now the 1st of November. It's a big old series. This has been lots of races, it's been a good little series, as we hear that actually Romy might have just damaged Lubeck's car in trying to lap Romy. Lubeck's actually taken some damage, so that could drop Lubeck even further back behind Mikey. I think he's around 20 seconds behind him at the moment. I'm not quite sure where Mem39 is in relation to the Polish driver. Of course, that gap between Memto and Pikey Mikey is what we're looking at in terms of the overall victory. And the overall times for the race weekend, as we can see now, it is up to, I just can't quite read that. Is that up to a minute now? That is, it's up to a minute.
Yes, 1 minute, 2 seconds.
So that's only 8 seconds between the two teams after at the moment, with 40 minutes still to run of this race. So
technically, Made for Racing are in the lead in the overall standings.
No, they're still 8 seconds behind, I believe. The gap is about 1 minute 10, so it's still a little bit of a work for them to do, but it's definitely closed down that gap a lot. It will be Potts the Duck, team captain for Made for Racing, in tomorrow, with Chozza32, third driver for CCR, in tomorrow. So there'll be a good battle between the two drivers.
Who do you think, Ethan, looking at the times now, plus knowing who's driving tomorrow, who do you think will have the advantage going into tomorrow's race, and who do you expect to clinch victory in the overall weekend results?
Well, Chozza32 usually is a very hard charging driver, and if he can get out near the front early, he's got a good chance of maintaining that gap. However, he can be quite volatile, and he can make mistakes when pressured. As we see, Mem29's just spun it. Actually, that's at the bottom of the hill, I believe.
Well,
so
that's going to
spin.
add more seconds onto the overall time, and it's going to pretty much hand now the overall victory teammate Racing, because a spin will take, what, 5, 6, 7... Oh, no, they might still have the overall lead, but we'll have to double-check that. But again, Memto just having quite a lot.
Whoa!
To say, whoa! Did you see that slide through there? He's really getting their back out. We're hearing that might be damage to Mimto's car, or just a good rallycross power slide, but more likely to be damaged for that Honda. And Memto89, that is third or maybe fourth big mistake here this afternoon. He's staying out, so perhaps he thinks that the damage is not too substantial in the Honda Acura, or whatever the car is that he's got here.
It's the Acura NSX, though it is based upon the Honda NSX. It's technically as we see, cutting over myself. It's Pikey Mikey in the pits now for what we believe would be a scheduled stop with 40 minutes to go. That would fit the strategy. So we'll see where he comes out. He should come out in first position, maybe just drop down to second if Lubeck's closer than we thought he was. He's actually been in that pit for a while. Lubeck is now coming up the hill. This is going to be very close between the two cars, unless Lubeck's in the pits as well. So
they're just following each other through there. Lubeck doesn't want to come out side by side to Pikey Mikey and perhaps cause an incident, so he's just playing in a safe game, coming in the pit lane, let Mikey go and then plug in the laps later on. Mem289 is very far back, so he's not going to even challenge Lubeck during his pit stop. So at the end of the second round of pit stops, we should see the same order, with Mikey leading from Lubeck in second and Mem289 there in third position. We've got Romas Argan, the Portuguese driver, in the pit lane as well. He's dropped back down to sixth position as Cobra makes up one position on him and moves up into fifth position. So that should be the only change at the moment in that round of pit stops until Cobra comes down and makes his pit stop. So not much happening during this round of pit stops due to the fact that the cars are spaced apart. But the main story in this one is, how long will Memto go before another mistake? That seems to be what we're talking about so far today.
yes, it does seem to be, how many laps can Memto do without an incident, which is a shame because he's, in terms of pace, been right where he needs to be. But he's just not had the consistency to back that up. That car seems to be very difficult to drive all race, and he's got a lot of damage, and I think what's happened is damage has breeded damage. He's made more mistakes than he probably would have expected to after that first one. As we see Lubeck there running through the beginning of the third sector. We're down now with Cobra. Cobra had quite a strong showing actually at Eiger, which was their first time out, but this time it's just had an issue, and I believe it's just crashed as well. So it's just been a really tough race for the Swedish driver. Of course, the other Swedish team, Gore, aren't represented here this weekend. They've decided to they have a race, a 4-hour race at the Nordschleife coming up next weekend, so they're preparing for that instead of coming to the Matterhorn. They've gone back over to Germany to do some more testing, ready for the Nürburgring the Nordschleife 4 hours coming up next weekend by another organising body, which of course is all good practice for them in February for the core Nürburgring 24 hours. So it does help them, even if they are missing out here, because of course they're a veteran team. They've already picked their car. They're in the Mercedes SLS GT3 again. This will be the second year that they've been in that car. So they obviously enjoyed the driving of the car, though they have said that their setup from last year hasn't transferred very well for this year's running, and there's slight change in the specification for the car this year, so they are having to rework that setup a little bit. But Luke, have you had a chance to drive the SB9 category cars?
Not at the moment, no. So that's definitely something which I personally would like to do before the Nürburgring 24 hour. Before the Nürburgring 24-hour event, just to see the power that cars will have to come in just to see exactly kind of what the drivers will be feeling like heading into that event, and really just seeing what the cars are all about, and seeing how powerful they are, how dangerous they are to drive around the Nürburgring or Schleifer circuit. So that's definitely something which I personally would like to try out, just to see the difference in power from a normal road car such as these to a fully kitted out race car such as the ones that will be available during Nürburgring 24 hours.
Indeed. Oh, big crash from Mike there. That's a huge crash, actually. That's probably damage for the MX-5. So again, we've had more damage
For the leader.
For our leader.
It can't get worse, really, for the leaders, can it? Now, surely, would you want to be the leader if they keep having incidents like this? So that's another thing to keep your eye on. Now, Mike had a massive incident there. That's going to reduce the gap in the overall standings. It might even allow Lübeck to get back in it. In fact, if Mikey does have to pit, then Lübeck will take the overall lead. We've only got, half an hour or so left to go in this one. So whoever now starts to take the overall lead has a great chance to hold on to the victory. So if Mikey does have to pit, could this allow
Mikey's in the
Lübeck
pits.
Mikey's in the pits. Where's Lübeck? He's heading up now around the tight section. I think he will have quite enough in it to come through and take the lead. But of course, it is a short pit lane, so nothing is guaranteed. That tight section will feel like an age now for Lübeck, because he wants to get the hammer down, but he can't. Right out. Or heading up now around the final corner. This is where now he can really get the power down under the Poland 24 car. Is he going to be able to find a way past Pikey Mikey? Where is Pikey Mikey? He's on the left hand side. Lübeck goes through just, but Pikey Mikey is inches behind, so that could be a definite battle to keep your eye on. That's about a 4/10 of a second gap, but that worked actually quite well.
Mento's back in the pits as well, so that's going to completely neutralise any gain Mento might have got from that, with Mento now pitting again. So Mike's kind
Lübeck will be guaranteed second place then now, pretty much, unless he makes another mistake, because Mento's about 1 or 2 pit stops behind Lübeck. So it just shows now that keeping it clean in terms of Lübeck's objective today, he's been keeping it clean, and he is now leading the race with half an hour to go. However, that hasn't worked out too bad for Mikey, because now he's got fresh rubber plus 33 minutes to really exploit those tyres. So surely with the new rubber, with the energy, the willingness to go ahead and take the lead, it surely shows that Mikey will definitely put a decent threat on Lübeck in front, and we could have a strong race here for the win heading into the last half an hour of action here at the Matterhorn circuit in Switzerland.
Yes, it's definitely come on to be a very, very strong ending to this race. It looked like it was going to be all stretched out and open, but it seems we're going to have some real racing at the end of this between our two leaders. Lübeck hasn't had the pace that Mikey has, but he has kept track on the road. But oh, look at that gain that he got through there. Mike's going to be all the way up now. Can he make the pass into turn 5? That would be very unlikely. He's just going to pressure Lübeck. I think Lübeck braked a little late there. He seemed to get away with that, actually. The NSX has got a little bit more downforce than the Mazda does, which balances out for the extra weight that the NSX carries compared to the Mazda. But through this section, they're kind of evenly matched between the two cars. Mike's going to have to make sure he doesn't get too sideways through here. Braking down into the hairpin. This is where Mike deploys back up though, with the lower weight and the slightly better traction from the. I think he caught the grass there. He got away with that. I think he broke a little too late on the crest. And as I said earlier, the front engine cars can have a little bit of an tendency to endo through there. However, he did manage to hold on to it, and now he's going to close back in on the Polish driver. Of course, the Polish team are a lap down on Pikey Mikey. Made for racing, so if he needed to, he could just stay where he was. As we see
Mento is now almost exactly half a lap back on his about 50 seconds down on Pikey Mikey and Lubeck at this point. So he has closed 10 seconds because, of course, Mike had his crash and his pit stop, which seemed to lose him more time. So this is the battle for third position between Tavilaha and Mento. Mento's had more pace, but has been very inconsistent throughout this race. Both our fastest drivers have been very inconsistent this race.
Well, exactly. So these two, the ones to keep an eye on in terms of battle now on the track. Mento 89 is going to want to find a way past the Portuguese driver and try and close that gap that Pikey Mikey is going to make on him, or make on the Concrete Climax Racing team. Mento to the outside line. Is he going to cut across at turn number 1? You've got to be careful you don't hit Tavila, but both get away with it okay. Both get away then scot-free. Now can Mento try and close the gap on Pikey Mikey and try and stop Mikey gaining that time on him ahead of tomorrow's race? We're thinking it's about half a lap, meaning that's about 45 seconds he'll pull on, or he'll pull back on the Concrete Climax Racing team. Will Pikey Mikey, which will be about 30-ish seconds behind come tomorrow's race. So that's not a gap in which Made for Racing are going to think, right, we've got this one sewn up, but it's also a gap in which they know that they could do something about it if they have the right situation. So the fortune will definitely still favour Concrete Climax Racing going into tomorrow if that gap stays around stays around 30 seconds for tomorrow's race. However, it just adds that bonus bit of pressure on the Concrete Climax Racing team because they know that Made for Racing could potentially have a sniff of it. However, Pikey Mikey a bit wide there coming through turn number 5 has allowed the Polo 24 car in front just to escape a tad there. Lubeck keeping it clean through these sections. Through turn number 8 now, one of the key overtaking spots. However, Pikey Mikey nowhere near for an overtaking spot this time around as they head back down the hill and now up towards the tight element of the circuit. We've done a flat out bit now into the tight city street Monte Carlo style, left right hairpin style part of the circuit, and this bit appears that Pikey Mikey is faster through the tight section than he is the fast section. There was a big kind of sideways moment there by Lubeck in contact. Yeah, bit of contact there between Mikey and Lubeck, perhaps a bit more kind of accidental than malicious. It appeared that Lubeck slowed down in front and then Pikey Mikey just gave him a small kiss on the rear, so it shouldn't matter too much. However, now Pikey Mikey is lining him up. He's going to move to the outside this time. Can he put the car back into the inside? I'm not quite sure he will. He's sticking the car to the outside line. Oh, it's very close, aren't they, Ethan?
It's definitely extraordinarily close. I wouldn't have been that brave on the overtake there. I would have probably stayed behind and hoped Lubeck made a mistake on their own, on his own, instead of forcing the issue. That was possibly a little overly aggressive there from the Made for Racing driver, but of course he's smelling blood and he feels like he should be back in the lead of this race.
Well, he's not going to hang around doing it as well. We've seen that Pikey Mikey, he is a racer at heart. He's not going to allow Lubeck to take the honours here today. However, we're still 28 minutes or so to go left. Does Mikey really want to be, hassling the back of Lubeck and perhaps lead to either contacts, a steward's investigation or more, when Mikey is still going to cut away significantly at the overall gap? So, he could push now, perhaps make contact and perhaps fall back again, or does he just hold on to this now, grab the 45 seconds and then take it into tomorrow's race?
Yeah, well, it's all depending on, does he feel like, well, evidently he's quicker than Lubeck at this point in the race, and that's holding him up, so, that's just time evaporating in the gap between him and Mento, so maybe he's thinking he needs to get ahead of Lubeck, get ahead, and start stretching the gap out again instead of being stuck in the bottle that is corked by Lubeck. And again, he's got a better run up through here, but he's just not close enough to effect an overtake at any point. And now that has to be damage because Lubeck just got massively sideways. There's nowhere really Mikey could go there.
Car's looking alright for the time being. We're not seeing any lights come up on the damage indicator, so I'll have to keep an eye on that. Both cars seem to be going okay. However, kind of you're not thinking during a heat of the moment about the implications of having the side-by-side racing. You're just thinking in that moment, right, we need to get ahead of the car in front. You don't think that this could put you out the race, because when the blood's boiling, the adrenaline's pumping, the only thing that you're bothered about is getting in front of Lubeck in front. So perhaps that's where Mikey's finding his motivation here this afternoon.
Indeed. But yeah, he's got so much more pace, but because of the tight and twisty nature, he can't quite affect the pass. Oh, this time it's Mike with the big slide. So that's given Lubeck a lot of breathing space. So, you know, maybe Mike's taking some damage from this. It's hard to tell at this point. It's been a very close race so far between the two. And, you know, it's close between the two at this point, and Mike's dropped back. And, yeah, this is very much on a knife edge this point of the race. We'll see how it goes. Lubeck's got a bit of breathing space now, thanks to the issues there for Mike. With 24 minutes to go in this race. Who do you think is going to win out of the two, Luke?
In my eyes, it's going to have to be Pikey Mikey, because if he's sitting now on the back of Lubeck, you know, how long is it going to take Mikey to find a way past Lubeck, especially because Mikey seems to have the advantage. He seems to be faster in places than Lubeck, and especially because he's got 24 minutes to do it. Surely Lubeck cannot hold on to this pusher for another 25 minutes. So in my eyes, it's swinging towards Mikey. However, if Lubeck can just hold on for 24 minutes and keep defending, keep going in the right areas, then perhaps it could be him as well. So it's definitely really open so far. But then alternatively, what if these two make substantial contact a few times, then Memto comes straight out of nowhere and then grabs the victory. So still anything could happen with 23 minutes left to go on the clock here at Matterhorn.
Indeed, it is all up in the air at this point with these two. Of course, Mike, as we can see here, is visibly much closer than last lap. He's closed in again, so I think both cars are okay with no damage. That was a bit wide there for both drivers. Lubeck got a bit of oversteer, Mike got a bit of understeer, and they both ran a little wide, lost a little bit of pace. Again, another reasonable lap time from both, I believe. It was about a 1:31.0 for both drivers. And up again through the hill. Look how much Mike's closing. The problem is he closes up and then he has to get out the power because Lubeck's car is in the way. So that's kind of really making Mikey suffer in terms of his pace at the moment, because Lubeck's car is just too fat and wide for him to get past, I'd say.
Well, exactly. You don't want contact now between these drivers, because not only will it be damage, it'll also be a steward's investigation afterwards, which could put paid to Pikey Mikey's gap he's trying to close up on the Funky Climax boys in front. So it's a hard situation to play by. However, surely Lubeck cannot hold on to this pusher around a tight track, a bumpy track, with the fatigue starting to hit in with 20 minutes or so to go. So perhaps that may be where Mikey can just swing it. However, it's still a very close battle out there. Neither driver giving up any ground in this one. Pikey Mikey seems to be getting closer to the tight sections, and Lubeck faster through the first two sectors or so. So that's perhaps where the difference is coming. Pikey Mikey faster through the tight sections, with Lubeck being able to pull away down the straights.
Yes, it does seem that Lubeck just about gets far enough ahead out the corners to stop Mike being able to close up. They're quite even in a straight line, these two cars. It's not like the KTM, which is a little bit slower in a straight line. It has to get a perfect exit out the corners to keep with these cars. Let's go back up through the corners. Oh, a big wiggle there for both drivers. And again, Mike closing up through turn 1, 2, 3 and 4. And up towards 5, and just, can't get it done because there's no room. Lubeck puts his car in the middle of the road, gets a good enough exit out the corner, and, pulls 3 or 4 car lengths.
Right, it must be quite hard in this situation for Pikey Mikey to not start getting frustrated and not being able to find a way past Lubeck, because even though he's pushing his hardest, he still can't find a way past Lubeck. So with the start making him frustrated, start perhaps pushing him into moves which perhaps are dangerous, perhaps might put both drivers out, or perhaps even lead to contact, a serious investigation or more. So perhaps that could lead to damage for either drivers because of Pikey Mikey's desperation to get through. Also, another thing to think about is while these two are battling, Milto behind will be having clear track, and he'll be able to put in qualifying style lap time. So even though we've only got 20 minutes or so to go, he's 40 seconds behind. If he pulls, if every minute of the race he manages to close in by 2 seconds, he could potentially be on the back of these guys before the end of the race. Unlikely, I know, but perhaps possible.
Yeah, we don't know for certain. It's going to be difficult for Milto to pull it back. And again, look! Oh, he's got the inside this time. So will he force the issue?
No, he just squeezed it in wide. Lubeck, he just perhaps nudged across him, or perhaps Pikey Mikey playing a conservative game there, realising perhaps he might have pushed him onto the grass and perhaps some contact, and perhaps that's why he just slowed it down there. So perhaps, very interesting to know what actually happened there. But it appeared either Lubeck cut across or Mikey just played a sensible game there and just waited for a better position. But it does seem through that turn 1 section, Ethan, that Pikey Mikey seems to definitely have a clear advantage.
Indeed. Oh, Lubeck getting that. That's got to be Mike's chance now. Sure, they still can't get past. Even though
still can't get past. The Lubeck was dancing around in front of him.
How is this red NSX staying ahead of the Mazda here? It just seems to be just impossible for Mikey to get through. And how is this going to, sort out? The cars are nose to tail through every corner. This is incredible driving from both drivers, but it must be the most frustrating thing in the world for Pikey Mikey.
Well, exactly, because Pikey Mikey, he can't quite find a way past. He must be getting frustrated because whatever he tries, he can't find a way past. Whatever mistake the Poland 24 driver of Lubeck throws at him, Pikey Mikey still can't find a way through. So it must be a double frustration for Pikey Mikey. He can't get through by skill, he can't get through by mistakes. What can Pikey Mikey do here? Try to find a way past Lubeck. Exactly, again, through turn number 1, Pikey Mikey is so much faster. He's got the overkill. However, down here, and coming out of the tight corners, Lubeck just manages to pull enough of a gap to stop Mikey putting in a serious chance in the next set of corners. Like, look here, for example, coming out the corner, Lubeck has pulled away enough of a gap to stop Mikey having a realistic chance going through turn 7, turn 8, and then turn 9.
Yeah, well, turn 8 is possible if he was to go. If Lubeck makes a mistake through 7, he could get him through 8. But turn 9 is a no-go. Turn 10 would require some mystical voodoo overtake that no one has ever seen ever before in their lives, because that corner is so hard to just break forward normally. As we come up over the crest down back through, Lubeck again getting the better exit, but Mike through here will get the better exit. And under through here there should be the Mazda should close up on the NSX again. So Mike going for the wider run through here. I think there might be a little bit of
What's happened?
Mike's just gone straight
Mikey's
past.
gone through. Mikey's gone through. He's managing to pull the move off. He's managed to find a way past.
Lubeck missed the gear shift.
Yeah, we're hearing he missed the gear shift.
He ran into the limiter and just didn't pull the gear shift. What an absolute mistake and a half!
So even though Lubeck has managed to survive through massive mistakes, slides, dancing all over the track, a simple mistake such as missing the gear shift has led to Mikey taking a lead and even perhaps the win here in this afternoon's second race of round 5 of the Core CSS.
Yeah, wow, what a wow, I did not see that coming.
Well, I missed it completely. I turned around for like 10 seconds, turn back, he's gone.
Yeah, wow, what a I just caught it. Suddenly the NSX slowed right down and off goes Mike, and wow, Mamto is up to 36 seconds behind, so that's cost Mike around 10 seconds.
Well, Mamto, he's only 33 seconds now behind Lubeck.
Yeah, he could possibly have Lubeck if Lubeck makes mistakes. It's unlikely to happen.
And it
But
just
Mike
shows,
is
it just shows as well, Ethan. Sorry to interrupt you again, but it just shows that look at the pit stops there. More pit stops are faster. 4 pit stops for Mikey, 4 pit stops for Memto, and there's hardly any difference between Lubeck, who's just done 2.
Yeah, well, definitely.
But even though it was damage, it's still.
Well, yeah, the stops for Mikey. Lubeck's out there on strategy, so Mike was trying to do a 2-stop. If we looked, he actually just double pitted on each of his stops because he usually made his mistake on fresh tyres. Weirdly, Mikey has now set a new fastest lap of the race now that he's back out in front. So we can see what pace he had left in the car. Oh no, not quite new fastest lap of the race, sorry.
Personal best.
Personal best, I do apologise. It's green, not purple.
Mikey just gone fastest first sector there. Purple in the first sector, 23.9, which is about a second faster than what they're currently doing. The car's
that's extraordinarily quick. I haven't seen any.
In fact, we've got a car sideways in front of Mikey, so that might be.
That's Cobra. That could be very, very dangerous. Cobra needs to get out of the way and get out of the way.
That's coming down the hill as well, so that's a blind corner pretty much, and Cobra's having a dance down that section. It appears that Mikey's gone through, but that may be that Mikey had to lift off there, and perhaps that may be his fastest lap gone this time around. But of course, he has still got 14.5 minutes to grab that fastest lap away from Memto 89, his biggest rival so far this weekend in terms of the overall standings. So, of course, one up over the Concrete Climax Racing team will be much appreciated for anyone in the Made for Racing team this weekend in particular.
Indeed. Of course, we now know that Made for Racing are pretty much the champions of the CSS is now a formality. I mean, they started the season off very strongly with a clean sweep of the Trail Mountain races. And ever since then have just held on. They have 3 overall victories so far, thanks to other people's making mistakes. They've been extremely consistent. And I mean, what's your opinion of the veteran team here?
Well, Made for Racing, they've come in and they've done a Mercedes, so to say, in Formula 1. They've come in, they've dominated the series so far. So just as you said, they've won 3 overall races out of 4 rounds so far. So it just shows how dominant the Made for Racing team are, and it just shows that no one has come near Made for Racing during the CSS, and surely that kind of form will continue going into the VLN plus into the Nürburgring 24 hours. So perhaps you have to say that Made for Racing are already could be tipped as one of the hot favourites going into the Nürburgring 24 hours in February based on this kind of performance.
Well, it does seem that way so far. The Made for Racing team have definitely done well in that Mazda. Of course, they've got to give it up next time out. And they are driving in the Chevrolet Corvette Z06 GT3. Well, race modified, but it's spec to GT3 specifications like the rest of the SP9 cars. And they chose that. It's got the least downforce of all the cars. Interestingly, they've gone for the lowest downforce car. Compared to the Audi or the BMW, which have got a lot more rear downforce and a bit more front downforce. So that's an interesting choice there by the British squad. Of course, the other veteran teams in front of them, CCR, P24 and Gore, have all chosen the same car as they chose last year. So with Made for Racing and the newly rebranded Green Hell Heathens, which were formerly Fang It Racing, have changed their car for this year, with GHH taking the BMW Z4 in their pursuit of a second Nürburgring 24-hour victory. Of course, they won the 2013 edition, where when the race was held by Works, who sadly had to shut up shop, but they passed the mantle over to Core to run this incredible event. It's like no other endurance race, at least on consoles. There are, of course, 24 hours on PCs, which
possibly rival Core, but of course different platforms, we can't really compare. This is, I think, the biggest online race on Gran Turismo by a long way.
Yeah, so make sure you get involved then with an Evo in 24 hours, whether you're competing on track or just want to watch via the live stream. We'll try and get that live stream going for you for the whole 24 hours with commentary as well. So
Oh, Mikey's gone wide there. Sorry to cut over.
Yeah, Pikey Mikey a bit sideways there, coming out the first 2 or 3 corners. And Pikey Mikey there, that's not how he would have wanted to continue. He surely now just wants to hold on to this race lead, take the afternoon race victory and really cut into the Concrete Climax Racing overall lead. So, you know, that having a mistake there, definitely not what the Made for Racing driver of Pikey Mikey would have wanted from that one. So definitely to keep an eye on that. Of course, you can follow all the action from Core and, of course, Never in 24 hours on several platforms. On the Facebook page, just search for Core with all the information there, interviews with some of the drivers, features and more. You can also find us on GT Planet with all the threads as well for some behind-the-scenes look at how the series is run and some of the planning that goes into some of the races as well. Also, if you want to go on to Twitter, there is, I believe, an account on Twitter as well. Is it at Core Online Race, I believe, for that one?
Core Online Racing.
At Core Online Racing.
Oh,
so,
Core Online Racing. You are correct. I do apologise.
At Core Online Race. Sorry about this. For your Twitter hashtag, for your Twitter account on there, and then finally, the sort of hub of everything, so to say, is of course the website www.coreonlineracing.wix.com/core. Remember the /core bit to get redirected onto that Core site with all the information about the series, calendar, and more as well. And of course, the live stream you can access for each and every Core event for any live coverage of any of the races, including tomorrow's CSS race from 8 o'clock, and of course the Never 24 hours from from around the 28th of February time, I believe, until early March. It sort of crosses over between the 2 months. That's definitely something then to look forward to in that one. So here we go, 15 minutes of about 10 minutes of action now. No, about less than that, about 8 minutes of action to go here then. Still enough time, surely, for one of these drivers to make one last mistake in this one. Will it all get flipped up the pan? Will Pikey Mikey crash again from the lead and join the rest of the leaders today who have crashed from the lead? Will the victory get handed to Lubeck in the Poland 24 racing car, or will perhaps both have mistakes and then Mento 89 come from nowhere to grab the victory? Still so much to talk about, however, in this final 8 minutes, and you can get involved if you wanted to on the Twitter hashtag CoreCSS, but you have to get them in now if you want them read out over the air during the last 7 minutes or so of the programme. Also, please send in your nominations for your Core Driver of the Day and the first part of our Core Driver of the Series. So we'll do one driver of the series today, one driver of the series tomorrow, because of course Ethan won't be in the commentary box tomorrow, and we'll have to get his thoughts on it as well. So keep thinking. In about 5 minutes time we'll release today's Core Driver of the Day and the Core Driver of the Series for the CSS as well. So that's definitely something then to keep your eye on. Still 7 minutes or so to go in this one. Pikey Mikey still so far keeping it clean out there. He's got a hefty gap, I believe. Not quite sure. I'm guessing about 10 to 15 seconds over Lubeck behind. Third position for Mento 89 in that one. And we've got the two Portuguese drivers, Tavila, who showed some form earlier on in the KTM Crossbow. In fact, took the lead for a short period and almost appeared as if he could hold up Lubeck in front, but he couldn't quite do that. And it was Tavila who had to put pace to his charge for the lead.
I do apologise for that. I think we had a small technical issue there. I do apologise. We're now back at the Core CSS round 5, the finale, with another 6 minutes left to go. I do apologise for the cutout and commentary there. We just had a small technical issue, and Pikey Mikey is still leading. Of course, Luke was in the middle of a point. Unfortunately, he's not back yet, so we shall have to get him back as soon as possible. I do apologise, and I'm sure he'll be back shortly. So, of course, Pikey Monkey is on track in the lead still. He's set a decent pace, though not anything absolutely blistering at the moment. And hopefully we'll see some blistering laps. Of course, the tyres are now worn out. The drivers are just trying to get the cars home. And of course, it's been a good race for our top 3. Of course, Tavila was actually in the running for the lead about halfway in before taking engine damage. Unfortunately, having to crawl back up to the pits was a real shame. It was a great showing for the Team Morphine Racing team captain. Great shame to lose him from running so early on in what seemed like a real chance for them to get good pace, a good result, some showing on the track, but hopefully we'll have Luke back any second. Luke, are you back?
Hello.
Okay. So what were you saying beforehand? It was a very interesting point. Unfortunately,
I can't actually remember. Can you enlighten me, please, about what we were...
I unfortunately completely forgot as well. I was so busy trying to fix my technical issues that
That's exactly what I was doing.
Out of my head.
Yeah, sorry that we've forgotten the point that we previously made. However, back to the action. 4 minutes to go. Pikey Mikey leading the way from... Oh yeah, we're talking about the running order. We're talking about Tavila, about how he managed to almost grab a good solid score here today, but he's dropped down to 4th position. We've got Romisagan, the other Portuguese driver, in 5th. Now, those 2 Portuguese drivers were close earlier on. However, they have separated slightly. And then we've got Cobra there in 6th position, who hasn't really got going, so to say, in this one. He looked to be causing some problems with lapping him a bit earlier on. But he's been sideways and spinning and all over the place, as well as Memto 89. So both of those drivers having not really trouble-free afternoon. Definitely having some issues, which their teammates will hope to rectify tomorrow. The gap between Mikey and Memto there, 55.8 seconds. However, Memto still holding the fastest lap of this race so far, 1 minute 30.116, which no one has really managed to get near. The closest near to that lap time was Mikey, about 3/10 off, with a 1 minute 30.4. However, the gap in terms of the speed of the gaps between some of the drivers, you can see Mikey there at the moment doing a 1:31.3. Memto last time around doing a 1 minute 37.1. So something drastic obviously happened to Memto on that lap. And in fact, Mikey, if that's evident to show, is lapping roughly, 2.4 seconds a lap faster than anyone else. That can't or faster than Lubeck at least, with about 7/10 faster than Memto. No, than Tavila on that last lap. So it definitely shows that Mikey has got the pace on him to really push out during this one. So anyway, we've got 2.5 minutes to go in this one. It's time then, Ethan, and also we'll get the views of our live streamer this evening, John Bowes. Your views on today's core driver of the day. So start off with the driver of the day today, and then we'll head on to the driver of the series overall. So first of all, Ethan, please, your driver of the day for today.
I'd say GTPL Lubeck, actually. He's now running in 2nd. I think he's actually had a really good run, and he's kept out the trouble more than Mike, more than Memto. He's had a good solid race, done what he's needed to do. If I'm honest, I think he's done a really good job today. I mean, he hasn't had the best pace. I mean, he did some amazing defending in front of Mike until he missed that gear shift. But that's really, that and one kind of big spin is the only thing that's kind of blotted his perfect record. So, for me, GTPL Lubeck.
Well, I'm also going to go with Lubeck on that one, just like you, Ethan, because, again, he's been the driver who hasn't really made the mistake today. He's stuck with the strategy. He hasn't been all over the place. He's kept with the original strategy. One of the only drivers to do that. In fact, the only driver in the podium to have done that today. And it just shows that even though you can stick to your strategy, sometimes that's not enough, and sometimes you need more. Mikey's obviously delivered the kind of that bonus edge today. However, Lubeck should feel very happy indeed with that second position, because he probably thought earlier on that he was destined for a third position. So we're getting the thoughts of John Bowes. John, do you want to either pop on the microphone or type it below? John Bowes, he says, Pikey Mikey, he made mistakes but kept his head down and he had the pace. So I'll hand over to John now and he can explain a bit further about his drive of the day here at race 2 of round 5 of the course CSS.
Hello, yes indeed. I'd say that Mikey's really done it for me tonight, because he's just he made mistakes early on, which, as we all know, it's very possible when that happens to do exactly what we've seen Mento do, and at that point overdrive the car, desperate to make up. But what Mikey's done is he made the mistake, he sat back and he said to himself, yep, got to get the head down, got to drive sensibly, and it's paid off for him.
Well, unfortunately, John, great for the nomination, but unfortunately, due to the 2 votes to 1, unfortunately, the driver, or fortunately for him, unfortunately for John, the driver of the day today has been GTPL Lubeck for the Podium 24 Racing team. So a great result for him. Then we'll have to inform him of that prize later on. But quickly then, before this race ends, can I ask for your driver of the entire course CSS series so far?
For me, on
or team, or driver or team, whatever. Just do what you want.
Well, for teams, it's probably got to be made for racing. 3 overall victories. 1 bad result at Eiger cost them the podium there. But for me, made for racing, overall driver. Oh, it's too close to tell. Nicodemus has had some great races for Gore, but as we come over the line, I do apologise. I have to finish that point. Mikey, with the lights ablaze on the Made for Racing Mazda, takes the win, and wow, that's race 2 over. Wow, what a race that's been. It's been a roller coaster ride up and down these hills, in and out the pit lane for a lot of the drivers multiple times, and wow, what a race! Great finish there.
Stamps of authority on this race as well, hasn't he, Michael? He's come back from he's come through and he's managed to take the top honours. And here comes Lubeck, our driver of the day here this afternoon, coming out of turn number 19 for the final time across the start finish line, takes the second flag after 78 laps of hard racing, comes through in second position, and third position coming through in, well, quite a while. He's only coming up around 12, 13, and the final mistake there, almost there, 1:39. We expect him to come through in third position to come through the racing team. That's even for his driver on the series so far.
My drive series, it's so difficult to say. I understand it, repetitive. GTPK, nominated all the races he's been in bar 1. Really, he's had about 3 mistakes outside of 1 race where the car just wasn't working. Outside of Made for Racing, Johnny Green 1990 again, very fast in all of his races. All good drivers. But for new teams, me, probably Glen Owls.